What's up guys, my name is Ace, and we have a massive change coming this Tuesday to CoD WW2, and this isn't an exaggeration. This is the biggest change I have ever seen in a Call of Duty game during its life cycle with a patch. We've never seen a Call of Duty game change as much as it's about to change on Tuesday. Activision flew me out earlier this week to play DLC 2, and when we played, we were playing on this new update as well, so I can tell you guys from first-hand experience exactly what changed, as well as what I think about these changes. So let's just jump into these changes. First up, they completely reworked the divisions and their division training skills. Basically, forget everything you know about the current divisions because they're all different now. Some of them have a few similarities, maybe they kept one or two of their division training skills, but aside from that, it's just completely different. So everything you know about divisions, just forget about it right now. We'll cover all those individual division training skills towards the end of the video though. With this change to the divisions, we also see a change in the structure of the divisions. Now, by default, no matter which division you're using, your primary weapon gets 3 attachments. So it's like as if you were running the infantry division or primed before this. That's now just standard across all divisions. So you can be running airborne with hunker and still have 3 attachments on your class. So I think that's great. I feel like that just gives us a little bit more freedom, a little bit more power with our class without turning you into a complete super soldier. Next up, everybody gets a lethal as well as a tactical on their division now, and this is regardless of the division you're using once again, so you don't need to be running expeditionary to get both. Everybody gets a lethal as well as a tactical. This is one of those changes where I'm a little bit skeptical. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out. I'm just a little bit worried we're going to run into a lot of situations now where instead of just nade spam, it's going to be stun and nade spam. Having said that, during my playtime with the other YouTubers there, I wasn't really running into many issues with this, but we'll just have to wait and see how that one plays out once we get it into the hands of the masses. Now, something that's not related to the divisions, but this is a huge change, and I noticed this immediately when I hopped into a game. Everybody has unlimited sprint now. There is no running out of breath anymore in this game. Again, regardless of the division you're using, you don't need to be running airborne or anything for this. Everybody always has unlimited sprint. For me personally, as an aggressive player, I love this change, although I can understand that there may be a bit of backlash towards this. I think it may have been more appropriate to do unlimited sprint for the airborne division and then maybe just double the sprint times for everything else. That would have made it so airborne is still clearly that rushing all over the place sort of division, and you get that leg up in your opening routes and everything. But having said that, I personally like this. I just realized some people won't. The next big change is to the division-specific attachments. So we're looking at like suppressor and bayonet and tactical knife with resistance, all that kind of stuff. These, for the most part, have now become regular attachments. So let's go through them individually here. The suppressor, unfortunately, I know this is the first thing I checked. You still can't run suppressor on the rifle classes, but you can now use suppressor on SMGs and pistols, and it just counts as a regular attachment, which means you can use it with any division, which is huge because we can now have a full stealth loadout. You can now use the mountain division with an SMG, with a suppressor, with also a pistol on there with a suppressor, and you can get around the map silently, staying off the radar all the time, 100% of the time. You'll never pop up on the radar because you have suppressor combined with mountain. This has been one of my complaints since the beginning of the game with this division system, is they eliminated that full stealth ability, and I feel like that's a whole class and a whole playstyle in itself, and I'm really glad to see that that's going to be returning this Tuesday. Like I said though, this is just for SMGs and pistols. Next, we have the bayonet. This is a similar story here. You can only use the bayonet on the rifles still, but you can use it across any one of the divisions you want, so you don't have to be using infantry to get a bayonet on your rifle. And with this, we're also getting new attachments for rifles only once again, and this is the rifle grenade. Now, this was leaked a little while ago. I've talked about it before. We even have the hard stats that were already leaked, and those hard stats are accurate. This rifle grenade is not good at getting a kill on a full health enemy in core game modes. You basically have to either hit them directly, or you have to hit like right next to their foot to get a one-shot kill on a full health enemy. These are more so good for if you shoot a guy a couple times, he takes cover, you can finish him off by shooting that rifle grenade around that cover, or you can soften a guy up before you attack him by shooting that rifle grenade around cover, getting that initial hit on him, and then rushing him. It's not super powerful, so for anybody worried that it's going to be like Modern Warfare 2 level noob tube, don't worry, it's nowhere even close to that. And personally, I didn't really find it too annoying. It felt like it really did take some skill to get a kill with that thing, and therefore I don't think it's going to be a huge issue. As for the tactical knife on the pistols, again, this is pretty straightforward. It can still only be used on pistols, but it is a regular attachment, so you can use it with whatever division you want. And same story with the incendiary shells. These are now an attachment for any one of the shotguns, and you can use it with any one of the divisions you want. As for the bipod with the LMGs, instead of turning it into an attachment, they've just attached it 100% of the time. If you're using an LMG, regardless of the division you're using, you have the ability to use a bipod. And it's the same story with the sniper rifles. Now, every one of the sniper rifles has that built-in sharpshooter ability, so you can hold your breath, and you gain that aim assist when you do hold your breath. With any one of the divisions that you're using, you don't need to be running Mountain now. So with these changes overall, I think this is great. I like the fact that I can now run a suppressor with any one of the divisions I want. I don't have to be running airborne. And I forgot to mention as well, you can still detach and attach that suppressor. You just have to be running it as an attachment in order to do that. But in general, I feel like this provides a bit more freedom with our class setups. We can now mix and match a few things that we couldn't mix and match before. And overall, this just leads to a lot more customization within the game. And I think this was an excellent change. Now, before we move on to all of the new division training skills and how they've been restructured and basically how all the divisions themselves have individually changed, there are two new basic training skills. These skills are Clandestine as well as Blitzkrieg. Clandestine is kind of interesting. With this one, when you kill an enemy, he drops a duffel bag on the ground. When you pick that duffel bag up, kind of like a scavenger pack, you just run over top of it, you get a ping on your minimap. This is like that ping perk from Ghosts as well as Infinite Warfare, where it just has like a little radar ping, just one single ping on your minimap, and any enemy that's within that area will be showing up on the minimap. I don't know if this is countered by Mountain or what counters this, if anything. I will be doing the tests on that once this actually comes out and we have access to it in custom games. But this is a neat basic training skill that personally I don't think I'm going to be running in most game modes, but for kill confirmed, this is amazing because you're going to be running over those bodies anyways to get their tags, and this means every time you pick up a tag from an enemy that you've killed, you're going to get a ping on the radar and it will show off any other enemies that are in the immediate vicinity of you. So this one's kind of neat. I don't think it's very powerful. I don't see myself sacrificing something like Hunker too often for this, but in kill confirmed, I think this is going to be used quite a bit. As for Blitzkrieg, I'm actually going to do a dedicated video on this tomorrow, so there's a lot to cover with Blitzkrieg. It's huge, but this one basically turns your score streaks into kill streaks now, gives you a fourth score streak, and it buffs the streaks individually for you. So a very powerful basic training skill, especially in something like Domination. But like I said, tomorrow I'm going to have a dedicated video for this where I'm actually going to show some side-by-side before and after with the buffed streaks. I'm going to let you know exactly what each one of the individual buffs are to these streaks, as well as just any other things that you might need to know about Blitzkrieg. So if you guys haven't subscribed yet, you might want to do that so you can check that out tomorrow. So finally, let's get into all of the changes that we have to the divisions in the game. First up, we have Infantry. So with Infantry, our first division training skill is an additional primary attachment, which, like I said, we now start with 3, so this actually takes us to that 4th attachment for our primary weapon. With the second division training skill, we get an extra attachment on our pistol, so we now have 2 attachments on our pistol with this, and we have the ability to swap weapons faster. As for the third division training skill, this now reduces idle sway on our weapon when we're aiming down sight. And finally, for the fourth one, this is one that we already had attached to the infantry division. With this one, you move faster when you're aiming down sight, so you're able to strafe faster when you're aiming. And this is the new infantry division. Not a lot has changed with infantry, especially compared to the other ones. You might be looking at this thinking, whoa, I thought these were supposed to be huge changes. This one was relatively minor compared to the others. Let's move on to airborne. With the new Airborne Division, our first division training skill is going to be the ability to fire guns while sprinting and diving. So basically, they just built Gunslinger into this. Second is the ability to reload while sprinting. Third is the ability to climb over obstacles faster, and also you take no damage from falling. And finally, our fourth division training skill is the ability to sprint faster over time. So this appears to work kind of like momentum from Infinite Warfare, where the longer you sprint, the faster you move, up into a limit, of course. There's definitely a limit on that, but that's going to give you the ability to hit those opening routes a lot better than the other divisions out there, now that everybody has unlimited sprint. Next up, we have the Armored Division, and the first skill for the Armored Division is take significantly less explosive and fire damage. If I remember correctly, this used to be the fourth division training skill for Armored. Now it's number 1, so right off the get-go with the Armored Division, you're able to survive those explosives a whole lot better. Moving on to number 2, with this one, you're immune to shell shock as well as tactical equipment. Number 3 is quite interesting. You get increased bullet penetration through surfaces. My guess is this is just going to build in FMJ to your class, where it's going to be exactly like FMJ, but I'll have to do some testing on this as time goes on. And finally, for number 4, greatly reduced flinch when shot. This is something I didn't mention earlier, but primed is gone. It doesn't exist anymore as a basic training skill, so now that reduced flinch is attached to the armor division, which I don't think is really necessary in the first place. Flinch is already super low in this game after they had that update back in December, I believe it was. But just know, primed is now gone, and if you do want that reduced flinch, it's attached to the armored division. Now let's move on to Mountain, and with the first division training skill, you're invisible to enemy recon aircraft as well as controlled streaks. For the second one, killed enemy death locations are hidden, so that little skull that appears for enemy players when their teammates die to you, that will no longer appear, so this is basically like undercover built in. Number 3, no name or reticle change when enemies aim at you, and this means that little red name tag above your head, that no longer appears. And this is really significant for snipers out there, because now all it takes is running the Mountain division, and people won't be able to spot you while using Lookout. So you're going to be a lot more difficult to counter snipe now if you're running Mountain and sniping. And the 4th division training skill is Silent Movement. Moving on to Expeditionary, the 1st division training skill gives us double lethal as well as double tactical, because like I said earlier, everybody gets 1 lethal and 1 tactical, but with Expeditionary, you double that. The 2nd division training skill here is your munitions replenish from killed enemies and over time. Now again, this is something I'm going to have to do some testing on as far as that over time thing. But with this one, when you use your lethals and your tacticals, if you run over enemy players, you will replenish them just like you could before with Expeditionary. But now that also just seems to happen over time. So if you're just camping back and doing nothing, apparently you're going to still be getting your lethals and your tacticals back. I just don't know what the rate of that is going to be. As for number 3, this one gives you improved tacticals, and it's easier to destroy war buildables. This is completely new. I'm going to have to do some testing on these improved tacticals. I assume for the ones that linger, they'll just linger for longer, like Smoke Grenade, for instance, it will just last a bit longer, whereas something like Stun Grenades, maybe they'll just increase the duration of the effect or something along those lines. We will have to do some more testing on that one. And also the ability to easier destroy war buildables. This is going to be interesting as well. I didn't get a chance to really test this out when we were playing. I wonder if that allows you to plant those bombs faster on walls, or if it just applies to when you're trying to blow walls up. Maybe it just deals more damage to them if you're shooting it with a rocket or something along those lines. But this is actually something I've wanted to see since launch, is some way to play the objective more effectively by using a certain division. And finally, for Expeditionary, equipment damage will paint enemies on the minimap. So this is like espionage, but it only applies when you get a hit with one of your pieces of equipment. So like a stun grenade or a regular grenade, if you hit a guy but don't kill him, he will show up on your minimap in real time. And finally, this brings us to Resistance, and this division got a lot of big changes here. First up, we get that minimap indicator as well as the scrambler of close hostiles, so basically the same thing that we've already seen, but they've combined it into one division training skill. Next, for the second one here, we basically have awareness. It has come back. We can now hear enemy footsteps and movement a little bit more effectively. I only played one game with Resistance, and it didn't seem like a super significant change. It's not like I could hear everything from a mile away, but I was hearing footsteps a bit more effectively than you normally could. For number 3, we get ping. This is the ping from Ghosts or Infinite Warfare, where when you kill an enemy, you get a ping from their death location immediately. It's not like Clandestine where you have to go and pick up a duffel bag next to their body. It's the moment they die, when you either kill them or get an assist on them, you get a ping on your minimap, which is a very powerful perk. And finally, the 4th division training skill on this is essentially Lookout. You get to see those name tags at a longer distance, and you get a larger minimap coverage. So Resistance is actually going to be a very powerful and very viable division to be using when this update hits on Tuesday. And with that, that's going to wrap it up for all of the division changes that we're going to be seeing this Tuesday. I know a lot of people were possibly expecting a new division called Grenadier because it was leaked, and I even talked about this and stuff. We got no indication whatsoever that this division exists. We do have Blitzkrieg, and we do have the rifle grenades, which were looking like they were going to be perks and attachments built onto that. But I think what happened here is the initial plan was to have those as part of the division, but then they started reworking the entire division system, and possibly they scrapped that, or maybe we'll still see it in the future. In either case, it doesn't look like we'll be seeing a new division coming Tuesday. And with that, I'd love to know in the comment section below, what are you guys thinking of all of these changes? Can you believe they made such a massive change to this game? And if you're somebody that's been away from this game for a while, after seeing these changes, is it enough to bring you back? Personally, I think you should definitely give it a go if you've kind of taken a break, but you still have the game. Come back on Tuesday, try it out, and see what you think of this new update, because to me at least, it felt like a completely fresh experience. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.